What's funny about rappers asking about if they can curse or not on shows? I was like, don't y'all like write? I thought you could write without cursing. But then again, listening to some of today's music, period. Some can't and some can. But I'm like, wow, it's just.
I would say everybody that's asked us, can they curse on the show? They don't really curse that much afterwards.
Not
like
that
they
many people
literally
curse.
be like, "Oh, can we curse?" I'm like, "Yeah, go for it."
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, and then they be like, oh, "Okay," and they might say 2 words.
That's pretty much it. Because they're thinking about their parents.
Except for that there are some people that have gone in, but no, nobody's really cursed that much on the show.
The most that is probably cursed was Lenora speaking about.
I was trying to throw her out there to the bus again, but
I was gonna throw her to the bus.
Lenora
is our unofficial. She's our unofficial sister.
Cursing.
Bad.
She can't be our unofficial sister. My mom would be upset with that all that level of cursing. Hi, Mom. Facebook. The Facebook.
I was
on a conversation on Facebook earlier, and they were saying, like, spaghetti can't be a side. Is spaghetti a side, or is it a main dish? Our grandmother says it's a side.
It's a side.
So I was like, yeah, I didn't know this was a thing.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
No, it's not. It's a taco.
Okay, there we go.
It's a taco.
You can't call a hot dog a taco. First
Yes,
of all,
you can.
Okay.
You can call it a taco.
All right, then.
Black and ugly as ever, ever. Stay Houston down to my socks. It's your boy. Nah. What's my name again? Carlton Banks. Also, Fashion Nova Casanova. Also, I'm sorry. No, I'm Fashion Nova Hova. Yeah. Ding.
Fashion Nova Casanova works, though.
Nah. What's it called? I don't even remember who I am anymore. Oh, yeah, I'm Carlton Banks. Carlton with a K-B-A-N triple X. Carlton with a K-B-A-N triple X. That's what I want the ding. I want it down. Carlton with a K-B-A-N triple X.
And that's where the ding would go.
Carlton with a K-B-A-N triple X. Ring. Carlton with a K-B-A-N triple X. There we go.
There
Got
you
it.
go.
And over to my whatever side it is today. You said my right.
Oh, okay, that's us. That's us.
Co-hosts.
That's me.
My brother over here waving.
Somebody
at
was
people.
waving. I was waving at somebody at the studio, not the studio audience. Not the
Yeah.
audience. We don't have a studio.
We don't
audience
have a studio audience
yet. All right, then. So
Just Devon.
I don't know what's up with the gunshots. Like, why?
Because I like it.
Okay, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. Let's
It's a cannon.
the cannon. Okay.
Cannon.
Let's get to our guest today.
Yeah.
Who's our guest today? Our guest today is, you can go and introduce him. I'll let you handle that.
Usually I go into a long tirade of doing guests. You're
You
so
ain't got no
like
long
quiet.
tirade?
I don't.
He's a quiet man. We got Damien Randle.
What's
Yeah.
up, y'all?
Damien Randle, who
There we go.
like
Does a lot.
that's the thing.
Like, does a lot.
Trying to do less, but doing quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to talk about that.
He does
'cause
so
did a
much
lot.
that there's a half he
And I,
doesn't even talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole
man
other
of
side.
few words. That's like, because I told him, now look, Damien and I have filmed or recorded another podcast, and I was under the impression that Damien just didn't want to talk about himself. Like, I was like, hey man, if you ever want to come on the show and do a little thing, but I mean, you seem like, he goes, oh no, I'll talk about myself. I ain't got no problem with that. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I just don't do it on an unsolicited basis. I don't just insert myself in the shit.
That's good.
Okay.
And yes, I was the person who was asking about cursing ahead of time.
Yes.
That was you.
No. Actually, I mean,
What are you talking
A
about?
number of people asked that, though.
Literally every single person. that's
Everybody says
Every single one.
like it's like old school TV, like we going live.
Oh, the radio.
Like it's
They'll be on the Breakfast Club. Can we curse up here?
was like-
Did you hear Ray J? You can definitely do it. Okay.
I don't know why people ask if we
Yeah.
curse on the Breakfast Club. I'm like, have you watched the Breakfast Club? You can curse.
You can curse. They'll bleep it out if they need to that
I'm
day.
about to say they'll fix it.
They have a professional bleeper out there.
I'm about to say they'll fix
Yeah,
it in
dude.
post.
I'm like, they'll do it in post. They have a professional bleeper.
He said they'll do it in post.
Sometimes they're a little off, but they'll get it in there.
Sometimes.
And that's the spice of life.
So yeah, this is it's weird for me to be on this side of it. Usually I'm the one.
You're always.
I'm usually the one behind the controls,
Really?
watching all the tomfoolery. Yeah.
Don't you?
Lately, you've been the one behind the controls, but we are also talking about you used to be in front of. We're talking about. I mean,
Okay.
you headlining shows in Prague. I mean, it's like that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So you were definitely at one point in front, and then you made the decision to step back.
Oh, yeah.
Which do you prefer?
It depends. It really depends. once I start doing one, I kind of miss the other, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
The one thing about being I don't know where you want to start with it, but I'll just speak in generalities. One thing about being a musician is
Deep sigh.
Deep sigh. And this is just real talk. You have to come to a point where you realize that you may not be as in demand anymore as you were at some point. And it's time for you to step back and figure out what else you can do in and around that. I think what happens with a lot of people is, like, if someone wants to be a rapper, they will rap until someone else tells them it's time to step away. I know that we got to a point where the demand for our music wasn't as high as it was at some point, and we said, you know what? Let's take this time to diversify what it is that we do so that we're never caught out there in a situation where someone else is telling us when to step away.
And so let's back up then, because you said you don't know where we want to start.
Yep.
We want to start at the beginning.
Okay.
At the very, very beginning. So when you say we, you were referring to?
My rap group, K-Otix.
All right. And let's back up before then.
Okay.
Because you didn't start out in a rap group.
Man. I mean, back on June 18th,
I'm about to
19
say. Where are you from?
Sound like Bill Cosby.
I'm from Sunnyside, Houston, Texas.
Sunnyside, Houston,
Born and
Texas.
raised Southside, proud.
All right.
Enemy of the North Side. Self-proclaimed enemy of the North Side.
That's old school Houston for real.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Went to Law Elementary, and then went to Askew Elementary for Vanguard, and went to Lanier Middle School, and then went to Lamar High School.
Now, are you at what point in this career, up to high school, are you deciding I want to get into rap? Are you even affected by rap, or like anything?
Man, up until high school, I was going to be a comic book artist.
Really? Okay. You know what? That's okay.
And then rap ruined my life.
How did it ruin your life?
Wait. Before we even get into that, let's get on the comic books then. I would say you're talking about the comic book artist. Like, what comics were you looking at, and what were you trying to draw? What were you trying to get into?
Comic books. This is the funny part. Out of all the conversations I have with people about music and movies and everything else that they know me for, comic books are really my first love.
Okay.
My mother took me to a comic book store when I was 8 years old. And back then, they sold comics on a newsstand. I was buying mostly X-Men comic books, like G.I. Joe and Transformer comic books, Superman, Spider-Man. And I would just draw. I wouldn't trace, but I would look at the picture in the book and just draw it freehand on a larger scale, just to practice my forms. And then up until I said high school, up until middle school, I was really going to be a comic book artist. I was I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of cold with it. I was pretty good with it.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine introduced me to Eric B. and Rakim. And
what grade was this?
This was, I'm about to date myself.
Yeah, you are.
7th grade.
7th grade, Eric B. and Rakim.
No, 6th grade. 6th grade, Eric B. and Rakim. Changed my life. The following year, I was introduced to NWA. And that
changed your life again?
Changed my life even further. And I was like, I really, I'd known of rap before then, but those really gripped me. And I just started diving more and more into music, more into KRS-One. By the time I got out of middle school and into high school, it was really like A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Pete Rock, Ghetto Boys, Too Short, Far Side, like the entire spectrum that we'll call it of hip hop. I really got into that, and actually through high school I was a dancer. I wasn't even trying to rap. I was actually a dancer. And we won the talent show in senior year. And but during the same time, my boy Mike, who I rap with in K-Otix, before we even thought about doing anything, we had a class. When I was in my senior year, he was in his junior year. It was I don't know if anyone remembers this. This is an old computer language called Pascal that nobody uses.
Nobody uses it anymore.
Not anymore.
But what that class allowed us to do was it allowed us to send messages to each other, much like the way email works. And so we would send like little bars to each other just little hot bars to each other. And we would spend the entire class. We almost failed the class because we would basically just battle each other in class. And there was really nothing else. But like that's what we did the entire year.
Oh, ahead of the time, battling electronically.
Just key styling on fools.
Key styling. Key styling.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so then I graduated that year. And sometime that summer, Mike gave me a call. He goes by Big Mun professionally. He gave me a call. Said that he got approached by someone who was looking to manage a rap group. And she asked him if he was in a group. And he was like, yes, I am. Completely lying. So he called me that day. It was like, hey, so this lady wants to manage a rap group. I told her I was in a group. You feel like being in a group? It's like, I don't have anything else going on. I'm about to start college in the fall. Sure, why not? And we we signed a handwritten contract on legal paper, written in pencil. And
Pencil.
Yeah, I remember her name to this day. She was a medical assistant who was trying to get into music, and she signed us up for a talent show. It was a citywide talent show, and we got robbed out of first place by someone who sang a gospel song. The girl could not sing.
But gospel will
The
make
Kanye
you win.
West thing.
It's
Gospel
like,
makes you
it's
win.
like it's like amateur night at the Apollo.
That's exactly
They
it
don't
is.
boo anybody if you sing gospel.
You can't boo the Lord.
You sure can.
You can't do it.
And we got shut down. So we got second place, which was like losing us.
You should have done like Ye, and you should have ended your verse with Jesus.
I could have,
And then just drop the mic.
but she went after us.
But you weren't prepared. Yeah,
I
she went
wasn't
after.
ready. I wasn't ready. That was our first lesson. And really, we were just going to be a group just for that one talent show. To be honest.
Did you already have the name?
We had a name at the time.
What was the name?
The first name of the group was Guess Who.
Okay.
And because this was the early 90s, we spelled it GESS space HOO.
Okay.
Thankfully, we learned that there was a rock group called The Guess Who. I think they were from like the 60s or 70s, and we decided to change the name. I'm glad we did not stick with that.
All right.
And eventually we came up with the K-Otix a couple of years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went from Guess Who to K-Otix.
Yep.
And then y'all are this was supposed to be a one-time thing.
Yep. One-time thing. This was like 92. But after the talent show, after we suffered that horrifying defeat in the name of Jesus, we decided that let's go ahead and let's just keep writing the stuff. And we actually knew a couple guys from high school who were signed to a very small, now defunct label called New Style Records. A group called Satin Smooth. Do your Googles, do your YouTubes, you'll find them on there.
Satin Smooth.
SAT space N space Smooth.
I'm glad you spelled it because
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
I'm like Satin Smooth.
It's like you're satin it. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Any group from the 90s, you
You had to
spell
misspell
it out
the name.
No,
You was
yeah.
like,
because
"Aw."
phonetically, it's not
Yeah,
going to
you're
work.
like you gotta change that up real quick. Okay, so you signed.
We did not sign.
Oh, you didn't sign with the. Oh, you just knew Satin Smooth and they were signed.
Yes.
Okay.
We let me stress that. I can't stress that enough. We did not sign with New Style for good reason.
Didn't.
But they introduced us to another young whippersnapper, up-and-coming producer who was looking to get paired up with a group who now goes by the R. And that the story of meeting him was kind of funny as well. I don't know if you guys have met him before, the R, the producer.
No.
Okay, so let me paint the picture. So we're at a at the Satin Smooth's producer's apartment, and we're somewhere on the southwest side in the apartment. And while we're waiting for this new producer to show up, their producer, he's stashing trash bags of weed in the closet. He has another closet full of guns for whatever reason. And it's just one of those things, and we're just sitting around playing PlayStation or something like that. There's a knock on the door, and a little white kid with a flannel shirt comes in. And we're like, okay, who's this dude? And they're like, this is my boy, this is the producer, Russell. We're like, oh, okay.
Didn't expect this.
What kind of shit is he producing? You know, okay. And he pulled out some, he pulled out some tracks, and we were like, oh. He was very much on at the time, he was very much kind of like on a DJ Premier vibe.
Yeah.
And it was very good, very banging. And we just sat there for hours just like freestyling over his beats. And we were like, let's go. Let's rock to it. A couple weeks later, we went to his house up in Aldine. And we recorded a couple songs. And the rest is history.
Now, you saying this is like 92?
So 92 is when we started. We actually met the R probably early 93.
Early 93.
Yeah.
So let's, for the listeners and trying to get the soundscape, what is, because we're in Houston.
Yep.
What's the Houston sound at this time?
Here's what's crazy about it. The Houston sound at the time, especially as far as hip hop, pretty much spanned the spectrum. Over the years, there have been, it's grown into distinct lanes. If that makes any sense.
That's kind of what I want to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, elaborate on that.
But at the time, in the early to mid 90s, a lot of what you hear, a lot of the people that you see were really running in packs. So it wasn't unusual. See, a lot of people identified our sound as more of an East Coast sound. That's how they identified it. But we were also running with people like K Reno, who was also running with people like, I was going to name a bunch of people that don't really exist in that context anymore. But with a group like us who was described as more of an East Coast sound, like we've opened for the Ghetto Boys before.
Yeah.
At Studio 9.9 and got, a pretty open reception from the crowd there. Mm-hmm. Like there's no distinction between, one genre of hip hop versus the other. So it was very undivided at the time, and it was actually a very supportive environment, so to speak.
Okay.
So you didn't have a lot of these divisions or categorizations that you have now, which is one thing that I know a lot of people who've come around from the late 90s on never got a chance to experience. They've always assumed that there have been two sides of the stone, mm-hmm. as far as Houston rap is concerned. But everyone used to run really in a pack. Like the R, who used to produce for us, also used to produce for Fisu. He's also submitted tracks to like Street Military. Like
okay.
Like it was very inclusive at the time.
So what do you think? I guess with that, what kind of started happening? Was it just one part started getting popular, and then things just? Did the outside world define it, or did we define ourselves? How'd it go?
The Telecommunications Act of, if I'm not mistaken, 1996 changed a lot of it because of the way that radio worked. Following that, radio could monopolize the playing of music the way that they wanted to. That's a very simplified version of it. Mm-hmm. But radio stations were more incented now to play popular music rather than playing a variety of music. So if you go back to around 96, 97, that's where it changed and you started getting the saturation in radio play from the same playlist of 10 people. And once that happened, radio at the time still heavily influenced what people listened to and what was in demand for a lot of people. Because just to give you an example, like a few years before, I remember when I was working at Astroworld, and I was right next to a spot that played music all day at Astroworld, and they would play 97.9, and you would hear Ghetto Boys followed by A Tribe Called Quest, followed by NWA. Like there was just a mixture of things. Come 96, 97, you had the same 10 artists on.
Okay.
And for a lot of people, especially Houston has always been very impressionable in terms of people from Houston. I hate to say it, people from Houston tend to follow what they feel is already popular. That's happened a lot. And a lot of times at the expense of local talent. So they would say if these 10 people that are being played all day are the people that are being played, then that's who I need to pay attention to. And it just so happened that they tended to favor what was, I guess, a more predominant mainstream sound at the time, or whoever had bigger pockets to get play on the radio.
because I would say, like, from our perspective, we're coming back to Houston about
93.
We're coming back to Houston in 93. And shortly thereafter, because before when we were here, like, when our cousins would give us tapes of the Ghetto Boys.
Easy.
We got a couple of things.
Boy.
But I know when we did get here and we're starting to enter high school, Houston seemed real West Coast.
Yeah, Houston was
Like
West
everything,
Coast.
all of a sudden, I was like,
Spokes.
it was a very much like a heavy Tupac influence. Like I was
Man.
like, I'm like, it's like Tupac lives here
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like. And so even when I remember when it was like the big East Coast West Coast thing, I was like, well, I listen to so much East Coast music, but it was like everybody was like, oh, we listen to I don't listen to Mobb Deep, I don't listen to Wu-Tang, I don't listen to none of that stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, so Houston is just West Coast. That's how it felt.
Sure.
Where did y'all go to before y'all came back to Houston?
Alaska.
We were in Alaska.
Oh.
We were completely separated from everything. So
Okay.
basically, whatever people would send us or give us, that's what. So that's why
And
I was
MTV.
Like, we was really on
Because
the outside.
we was in the classic rock and George Michael at that time.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm still a big George Michael fan.
I was listening to Aerosmith when we went up to
Yeah.
Alaska. I remember the year Janie's Got a Gun
Yep.
was out, and then somebody
Groove
gave
was in the
it might have been Reggie.
house.
It might have been Reggie that gave me the Ghetto Boys. I didn't know. And,
was
and
Jermaine.
gave Jermaine. Jermaine
Yeah.
gave me the Ghetto Boys tape. Jermaine gave me
Shout out Jermaine, by the way.
Jermaine gave me the Wu-Tang tape.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I took a Ghostface CD from them. I didn't know who Wu-Tang was. So when I first heard it, first of all, I thought Wu-Tang was one person, and I thought that one person was Ghostface, and I thought his name was Wu-Tang. So I'm jamming it the whole time. Then when I start discovering anything, I'm like, dog, who's this other dude that's always with them? I'm like, oh, okay, I was wrong. Wu-Tang is Raekwon and
Yeah.
Ghostface. They got a group. That's kind of cool. Then I keep listening to things. I'm like, yo, who are these 7 other people in the video? Like, so yeah, from our perspective, Houston was. I'm with you on that, where it's like impressionable. Impressionable is the nice way to say it.
Well, Houston was kind of in a unique position, and I'll explain why in a moment. Now, one thing about in the early 90s especially, a lot of the southern states, for whatever reason, strongly favored West Coast music.
They really did.
Yeah, and I mean from Atlanta all the way over across the board
Look at Jermaine
to
Dupri.
California. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them favored West Coast music. So a lot of the sound that you heard, especially from Southern artists at the time, was heavily influenced by West Coast music. Houston, at the time, had Southwest Distribution, which was the largest independent distributor of music in the country. So Houston itself, the Houston market itself, actually moved more units of music than any other market in the country. So there was more music bought and sold here in Houston than in any other market in the country. Because of that, we were fortunate that we did receive a lot of music from a lot of different places. So we received East Coast music in equal supply to West Coast music and so forth, like a ton of it. So, and we were fortunate because at the same time, again, if you go back to like 93, we're also listening to, we're listening to Biggie. Biggie's coming out around then. Wu-Tang drops in 93. Got a funny story about Wu-Tang.
We'd like to hear it.
Okay. But we have this convergence of music from all different places because they're all sending their music to this very large independent distributor in Houston, and we're getting the benefit of all of it. So we were kind of unique in that sense. But then again, when the radio play shifted and they were more incented to play quote unquote popular music,
We shifted with them.
we shifted right with them. So even now, a lot of times when, there's the thing, if you talk to a lot of Houston-based talent, they'll tell you, Houston people won't really jump on your shit until you blow up somewhere else. And I know everybody in every market says that, but it's especially true for Houston.
Yeah.
You don't really blow up in Houston until you blow up somewhere else. Wu-Tang. So back in 1993,
I love this.
we were working with a gentleman by the name of Will Strickland, who at the time was the radio DJ for K-True, the Rice University radio station. He was there Saturday. I forgot the name of the show. Came on Saturday nights. We listened to it every week. But Will was also pretty. He was also pretty involved in working with different labels because the Rice radio, college radio back then was very big in terms of breaking artists, and labels were incented to keep relationships with college DJs, and Will was very influential in that sense. I remember early in 1993, he kept telling us about this group that was coming out later this year called Wu-Tang. I'm like, that's a corny name. What does that even mean? It's like, it's a Wu-Tang Clan. You know, a lot of what they talk about, you know, is based on kind of like on martial arts stuff, blah, blah, blah. You know, they're really into like Shaw Brothers stuff, martial arts flicks. And we're like, the shit just sounds corny, but whatever. And he was like, promise me. He was like, believe me, I promise you, these guys are going to be big one day. We're like, okay. December 12th, 1993, Wu-Tang came to town for the first time. We were recording some music for an EP at the New Style Record Studio that we were not signed to. We did not sign.
Not signed to New Style, just recording up there.
Didn't sign.
Just recording there.
There must be a lawyer that's just waiting.
Nah, they didn't. They couldn't afford lawyers. They were spending too much on coke. But
wow,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
What we're talking about.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Allegedly. The studio was next door to where 97.9 was at the time. So a lot of times when talent came to 97.9, they didn't have like a real waiting room at the time, so they would use New Style Studio as their green room, kind of, sort of.
Ah, okay.
So we were in there recording. DJ Cosmos was doing some cuts for us on the song. And while we were in there, this group of Negroes walks in. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And Will walks in with him. He's like, yo, wanted to introduce y'all to the Wu-Tang Clan. They just had a show last night at Club Northside. It's like, oh, okay. So these are the guys that you were talking about. And we're kind of sizing them up. Like, all right, let's see y'all. It was the first time, and amazingly, all of them were there.
Amazingly, yes.
All 8 of them. It was only I want to say that was the only time I've seen all 8 of them. I don't count Master Killer. That's the only time I've seen.
Wow, because I was like 9, but he does spoken word.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Master Killer was not there, but the necessary 8, the essential 8 were there.
Damn.
And I didn't recognize Ghost Killer because up until that point, I'd only seen him like with the stocking mask on his face.
Yeah.
ODB was ODB. He walked in with an old E bottle, 3/4 empty, and he handed it to me. He said, "Yo, I need you to look out and hide this for a nigga real quick." I was like, "Okay," and I just set it on the floor because I was like, "I don't know why you just gave me this mostly empty bottle." And they all kind of gathered around. They would just kind of listen to the music that we were working on, and they at least pretended to be into it. I don't know if they, how rap niggas, they just don't really like to show that they like something. So they're just like, yeah, I see what y'all doing. I see what y'all doing, young blood. I'm like, we're the same age as you. The RZA went into another room that we used to call the tape room, where they had a bunch of demo tapes that labels would send for promotion. I shouldn't say demo, but promotional tapes. And he was digging through the drawer that we usually stole tapes out of. So I'm like, man, still over here going through our drawer, stealing the tapes that we're trying to steal. And RZA was pocketing those tapes. And so me and my boy Mike went in. It's like, man, we want to ask you a real serious question, dude. Because the rumor at the time was that there were so many people in Wu-Tang that we just never would know how many were in Wu-Tang. We were like, how many, like for real, how many people in Wu-Tang? And the RZA, with a straight look on his face, goes, yo, we deep as the Atlantic Ocean, kid.
That sounds like a RZA answer.
And we just, I'm from Houston, man.
That sounds like a RZA answer.
No, we were like, no, seriously. He was like,
just give me a number.
He's like, yeah, that's how deep it is. And we're like, okay, so we're not going to fuck with you then.
Okay.
We're going to leave you in here to steal tapes. Go around the corner to see Method Man. His hand is bandaged, heavily bandaged. And, of course, we're going to be like, so what happened to you? Well, we had a show last night here, and there was an altercation at the concert, and I cut my hand on some glass. Have y'all ever heard about the infamous Wu-Tang incident?
No.
Would you please tell us about this?
On December 11th, 1993. So, one thing about Houston has always been a very prideful city, and y'all just stop me if I'm talking too much. Houston has been
podcast.
Talk
Podcast. That's what we're here for.
Talk all you want.
You're going to tell this story, but then we got to get back into K-Otix, though.
Okay.
And tell your story, but I want to hear this one.
Okay. So this is the infamous Club North Side story. So Houston is a very prideful city. Don't come to our city talking shit about Houston or about us, because we will. We will fuck you up.
True.
Be prideful.
So Wu-Tang comes, and remember, this is something new. People aren't used to this kind of shit. They aren't used to a bunch of grown men coming out talking about kung fu styles and all this and wushu. They're just not used to it yet. Like we got to ease into it. And the other thing about Houston audiences that I learned is that if you're a new artist, especially, the crowd may not react to you immediately, but a lot of times they are listening. So they might not just really be like vibing hard, but they're listening to you. So when Wu-Tang shows up, they're doing their thing, and one of the members on stage starts berating the crowd. Like, y'all, if y'all not fucking with, this Wu-Tang shit, y'all niggas is corny, y'all niggas is whack. And, people in Houston like, oh, you say I'm what now?
I can think of at least 4 people who
Yeah.
said that in Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like, fuck you, nigga. Oh, fuck us, yo. Yo, fuck this city, yo. Like they start like cursing out Houston.
We came here to see you.
So, so niggas start throwing bottles. And bottles start hitting the stage, and Method Man happens to catch a broken bottle to the hand. And then one of the members of Wu-Tang starts talking about, we gonna come and we gonna pull out the strap. Y'all niggas want to act like this. And somebody was like, oh, word? Let me show you what I got here.
This is Texas.
Yeah.
So Wu-Tang exited the stage, and they ran back to their little tour van. And as they were leaving, somebody left them with a couple parting gifts.
Oh, wow.
In the van itself. Fired a couple shots. So that was Wu-Tang's first experience.
That's Wu-Tang's
Here in
first
Houston.
experience.
Yeah, and they had to take Method Man to Ben Taub to get his hand bandaged up. So he got the full Houston experience by going to Ben Taub.
I was about to say,
Went to Ben Taub. Went to Ben Taub.
His hand's not going to work the same. That's
Now,
crazy.
you were saying, like, okay, things that I learned about Houston. You're learning some of these things about performances and how Houston was responding, being a performer.
Right.
In terms of K-Otix. So, K-Otix, like, are you guys, when you guys first decide now, first of all, you're not signed.
No.
Still not signed.
Still
So,
not.
What are you guys doing then? Are you're just recording? What's the plan here? We're just like, we're gonna record, we're gonna release an album, but we're not signing to y'all.
We made a conscious decision at the time. And now, mind you, we are from 92 to 97. Because 97 was when we officially released our first project, so to speak. We did make a conscious decision in the beginning to spend at least a couple of years really just working on our music and on our performance and working on, because we're very competitive in terms of if we see something out there that we want to compare ourselves to, like if it's like A Tribe Called Quest or De La Soul, we're telling ourselves we don't want to put anything out until we feel like it's at least on that level, quality and presentation wise. So we spent the first few years really we did a lot of demos, a lot of recording and re-recording, performing a lot locally, because for us, live shows were the meat and potatoes of what makes you an artist, I believe. What happens when you actually get out there in front of people.
Yeah.
So, and I remember the first couple of shows that we did, we have a couple of people who were close in our circle who gave us some very honest feedback on it. And, we were like, we definitely got to get better at this part of it. And you see it nowadays. Like you see artists that sound good. They sound good in the ears, but when you see them on stage, you're just kind of like.
That's the running thing that's going on now, where you're talking about some of the, and we're not gonna get into it, but the new R&B cats, where it's like, yeah, you wrote good and you got great music and everything, but performing on stage is different.
And I think that drives who you are home more than anything else. The other thing was, at the time, there was this whole debate about, what type of musical platform you perform over. Do you perform using DATs or do you use wax for more of a live experience? There were people at the time who were, even back then, who were performing over their own vocals. And our whole thing was, we were like, we will never do that.
Okay.
Never do that. And I know a lot of people, I think people do it today more than they've ever done it.
Oh, yeah.
Just performing on top of the vocals.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And we're like, we want to be so good that we don't have to worry about that, because we want to be ourselves, and we don't want to give you the exact same experience that you get on the record itself. So we spent 5 years just doing music, not worrying about getting signed, not worried about doing that, because our first release we wanted to do independently regardless. We wanted to press up our own vinyl, put everything together, sell it ourselves, just to get that full experience of how the process works.
So that was y'all's goal initially, to be independent, at least on that first release.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, for the years after that, so from around 97 through 2000, we did play the market to see what interest there was in us getting signed, and we did get approached by a few labels, Elektra, Mercury, Atlantic, East West. Somebody said Def Jam. I still don't believe it. And a few more. Like we did have meetings with labels. The problem was, even at the time, we're smart cats. We know how to read. We would read the contracts, and even if we had lawyers, we would still read the contracts. And even if you don't know all the legalese, there are just certain things in there that just don't rub the right way.
Yeah.
All of them at the time, all of them had the clause where basically they would have options for your music for like 10 albums. So you would start off with one album, and it was up to their discretion if they felt like they wanted to hold you over for another album, they would hold you over for another one and another one and another one, all the way up to 10.
All the way to 10. Okay.
And all of them had that. And it was like, no, because if we just want to do this one and don't really want to fuck with y'all after that, we want to have the ability to walk away, or reduce that number to 2 or 3 or something like that. Because most music careers aren't coming anywhere to close to 10 albums. So you're basically saying, I want you for a lifetime. I want you beholden to me past your usefulness.
Yeah.
This is basically what De La Soul is going through right now with Tommy Boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the exact same scenario that De La Soul is dealing with Tommy Boy right now. So we were like, no, that's not really favorable to us. And around this time, so around 97, 98, we have enough knowledge of what other artists are already dealing with. Jive was another label. And I remember speaking with people close to A Tribe Called Quest, who's my favorite group of all time. The Low End Theory was my favorite album. And I'm thinking, like, that album blew up. That album put them on the map. And I know Tribe has broken down the numbers in the documentary since, but back then, learning the real numbers behind what they were getting from an album that changed my fucking life, I was like, no.
Yeah, this can't be life.
No, I was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, shit, we made more money pressing up 1,500 copies of an EP ourselves. So, like, we're just going to keep doing it until we sign.
Okay, well, wait.
Okay.
Until, you know what, before we get into the intel, and we're gonna get to the intel, let's play at least some music. Let's play a video from y'all. Let's play, you know what, I'll let you pick, because we got The Pen, Lonely Piano, Rare Breed, and Legendary.
Let's do Rare Breed.
Let's do Rare Breed.
That video was fun.
Because you guys, I'm like, y'all got the videos, you got everything going, and that's what we really want to get into, is like what goes on after that point.
Okay.
Just pulling up Rare Breed now.
No doubt about it. You shouldn't do without it. It'll make you
That's the intro. We'll rock with that.
just wait.
Picture a solitary figure approaching the spotlight and a mic stand. Mic tight in his right hand, thinking of something to say that might incite fans. For the thousands in attendance and the millions at home that have been moved by the brilliance. If you're lucky, this is something that you'll only get to witness once or twice in a lifespan. 20 years from the start, 10 removed when the redefining groove hit the charts. Universally acclaimed, board certified and specializing in bad.
All right, now we have a number of videos from you, but we wanted to at least see one just to see y'all in action, and then let's get back to continuing your story. So you're here, you're saying you guys still hadn't signed. You've seen some of the pitfalls that other people have experienced. It's like the Tribe Called Quest, especially you talk about Jive Records. I mean, at that time, was UGK talking about how bad the rap? Like, you have a number of people coming out there like, yo, like what I signed ain't working for me, and now I'm making no money.
Right.
Like, that's it. So where are you guys at now?
So at this time, we are actually forming partnerships with distributors. So we're actually distributing our music directly with Caroline Distribution, which was another relatively large independent distributor, and another one that's escaped. Fat Beats, we were distributed through them, and one more, but I can't remember right now. But through our agreement with Caroline, we were approached by an independent label, Bronx Science Records, to release a project. And what appealed to us regarding the Bronx Science was that they just wanted to sign us to a 1-album deal.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, this is, along the lines of what we were looking for. More specifically, it was 3 singles and an album. And they were going to give us an advance and all this. And our expectations were not that they would do for us what a larger label like Jive or Elektra or someone would do. But what Bronx Science was able to do is that they could more effectively target the more indie audience that we had. They were able to target more of the mom and pop shops, and most importantly, they had a presence overseas as well in Europe.
Okay.
With that said, fuck Bronx Science.
What happened?
Why?
Let me bring it back. So what I am thankful for is they were able to put our Universal album in rotation worldwide. We sold, by our estimates, about 40,000 units, which was
That's good,
it's respectful at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, they used 2 different UPC codes, so we only got paid for
Oh, man.
1,500 of them. But it is what it is.
Oh,
It is what it
okay.
is. They got us on that. But they opened us up to an international audience, which was something that we had not been able to do up to that time. Everything that we did was in the States, and it was mostly college towns and a couple of the larger markets. But they actually introduced us to the international market. So Paris and Germany, I say Paris like it's a country, France, Germany, and most of the other European states, they opened us up to, as well as Japan. So because of that, even though we didn't make a dime off of the sales from Bronx Science, it allowed us to finally tour internationally. So like in 2001, we went to Japan with DJ Cash Money and spent about 2 weeks out there. And then in 2002, 2003, and 2004, we were able to tour in Europe about a month each time. Fun fact. We are the first hip hop group in Houston to ever tour internationally.
Really?
That's a big feat, man. Congratulations.
It's a huge feat.
I have to throw that up there. Before the Ghetto Boys, before even the later cats like Paul Wall, Slim Thug, we were the first hip hop act to tour internationally from Houston.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's really good.
So,
Oh,
and it was actually a learning experience for us because a lot of people out there obviously didn't know. They had no idea, especially internationally, didn't have any idea of what Houston was. a lot of people thought it was a suburb of New York because of the way we sounded.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
And we had to talk to them about Texas, and in 02 and 03, the reference point was George Bush at the time. So where George Bush is from, we don't fuck with him. But we had to go through the whole cowboys and Indian stereotypes and all that. But it was a good learning experience for both sides because we got to show people that Houston was a very normal place, just like everything else. So that was 02, 03, 04. And then in 03, or was it 04, we got to headline the Hip Hop Kemp Music Festival in Prague.
That was how many people was that?
About 11,000.
11,000 people.
That's amazing.
And what's crazy is we didn't know until we got there that we were actually headlining the festival. This was the second year of the festival, and I want to say the first year they said that the festival only did okay. I think they said the problem was they closed out kind of weak. I think that last night closed out kind of weak. And they brought us in. Again, we didn't know this till we got there. They brought us in to have a stronger close to it because the year before, people were just leaving the entire last day. So we had no idea that kind of pressure was on us. And we went out there and we it was, to this day, that was my favorite show that we've ever done. And because of that, they were able to get more sponsors for the next year, and they went on to have other headliners like The Roots, Method Man, Redman. I think Wu-Tang did one year. So they were able to bring in bigger acts because they had enough faith that they could carry it on based on the strength of our performance.
That's good.
Yeah. I wish we would have asked for more money for it at the time, but it was really about the experience more than anything.
And what year was that?
That was either 03 or 04.
03, 04. So now we're 03 and 4. K-Otix, you released an album now, even though it's with this particular record label that you don't like. But
and then, in 2000 we released one with them, and then in 02 we released the Black Album independently. In 03 we released a project called Ethos, which was more of a compilation, but we still released that one ourselves as well. And then in 04, once we stopped touring, we decided to start working on the proper follow-up to Universal. And then that's kind of when things started to change a little bit. So in 2004, at this point, we'd been a group for 12 years.
yeah,
And one of the things that we came across, and it was kind of a wall that we hit, was both on the writing side and on the producing side, neither of us had ever worked with anybody else. We'd always only worked with each other. And for some of the music that we were working on at the time, we were always heavily into getting feedback from people throughout different stages of the process. A lot of people were saying, it's starting to kind of sound the same, starting to sound formulaic. You guys need to figure out a way to switch it up because, even though our Universal album was well received, there was some criticism that after a while it started to sound the same. We had 20 songs in that album.
okay.
So the songs started to sound the same. And we got 14, we done 14 songs for a new project. And we kind of sat down one day and listened to it, and we were like, shit. We've hit a wall of creativity. We can't get over this hump of not making the shit sound formulaic. So in July of 2004, we I went to Starbucks and met with the producer, and we had to talk about it. And we said, why don't we spend a couple years working with different people? Not worrying about working on our music or whatever right now, but working with different people so that from a writing standpoint, we can grow, and from a production standpoint, you can grow as well. And then somewhere down the line, we'll come back to it. And what came out of that was the R was able to, he went on to compete in the Red Bull Beat Battle, won that. he eventually signed with Trackmasters as a producer, and he went on to produce for like Lil Kim, Keisha Cole, LL Cool J, and quite a few other people.
Okay.
In addition to working on other projects with other people that he'd been wanting to work with, like Dave from De La Soul and a few other people. I went with my boy FWMJ, and we helped to start Rappers I Know, which was a collective of talent from around the country, including ourselves, who wanted a platform for greater visibility.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't come up with it. Frank came up with it. Shout out to Frank. Yeah, rappersiknow.com. And that platform was cool because it launched a lot of people who have gone on to do other things in music. Like Jake One, Symbolic One, who produced Power for Kanye.
Yeah.
You know, that's the homie. Jay Electronica,
Wow.
who's never releasing an album, y'all. So stop asking about it. He's never.
I don't
releasing
think people are
He's a
asking anymore.
Rothschild. Like,
I don't think people are
yeah,
asking anymore.
yeah.
Like it is what it is.
Those
He
are
came
some
in and
3
hit.
hitters, though.
Yeah.
Jake One.
They are.
Symbolic One. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
a big fan of Jake One.
Yep. Also, and I promise, this Rappers I Know was probably, if not the first, it was one of the first blogs to feature music from Drake.
Oh, that's awesome.
A very, very, very young Drake. Before his first mixtape came out, there were a few songs that were hosted on there as well. And I remember we were laughing like, this dude sounds soft, man.
And lo and behold,
Yeah.
all of rap music now.
Yeah.
Then he brought in the wave.
And he brought it, because there was a guy that contributed to the site, to the blog, who was from Canada. I can't remember his name, and he would always put on Canadian artists, and we were like, man, this shit is trash.
I don't want to hear Cardinal Official.
Yeah. Oh man,
I know you heard a lot of that.
too much. Like we had to disable some of those posts.
Yeah.
And then he put on Drake. We were like, come on, man, what is this shit? And now like Drake is one of
The top. Yeah.
he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites too. It's hard to
let's
say.
not get around it.
Yeah.
Let's not get around it.
I don't really say that publicly, you know. I feel like
This ain't public.
I got to do some push-ups. So that's what came out of that. So we were able to kind of broaden our horizons in a lot of ways. And then finally, 12 years later, we came back and did a project called Legendary.
And that one came out in what year?
2016.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah,
2016.
many years later, many lifetimes later.
Because we're talking about you went from 2000. You had this Starbucks conversation
in 04.
in 04. You're like, hey,
Starbucks first was
we
coming out.
kind of I had it at a small coffee shop. I think it was called Starbucks.
Yeah.
It was one of them. And so in 2004, you're like, hey, let's try this out for a little bit, work with some other people. And then lo and behold, you guys develop careers out of this.
Yeah.
Doing the other stuff.
Doing
And
the
then-
other stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And then in 2016, y'all are like, okay, did y'all miss it, or were y'all just what was it? What makes y'all say, hey, it's been almost 2 decades?
The funny part is we had the conversation about that project in like 2010.
Okay.
And we were just, it was just one of those things we were catching up, and we were just like, man, what would it be like if we did a project right now?
Okay.
And we kind of, we just kind of felt it out a little bit, and it was weird because everything just kind of fell into place. And it was just a matter of us kind of getting our schedules together because, again, at this time, the R is still doing Trackmaster stuff. Mike he's teaching at this point and doing a very good job in the educational world as well. Like that's still his passion to today. And I had started diving more into filming and videography. So we had to wait kind of for our schedule to coincide. And then in 2013, we did a show. This is before the album was even done. We did a show at Fitzgerald's, Rest in Piss. And that really reignited it because it was the first time that we had been on stage together since like 04.
Okay.
So like 9 years. And we didn't rehearse for it or anything, and that shit just went off without a hitch. And so we were like, yeah, we need to go ahead and do this album then and get it done. So like in 2016, we released it, and that was that. And we don't, it's weird because people are like, so what are y'all doing next? I'm like, don't really know. We don't. We're kind of at a place in our lives where we don't need to.
Yeah.
But if we want to, we can do it.
Yeah.
And it is interesting when an artist gets to a we don't need to point.
Yeah.
You can tell where it comes in, people saw Jay when you reached it. I'm always like, Drake is definitely at a we don't need to point.
Yeah.
Like
They're in a
you
higher
can-
tax
you
bracket
can-
than I am.
Oh, very
when it
much
comes to
so. But
that.
I'm just saying, you can see an artist. There are certain artists where it's like, I don't really need to do like the, that kind of thing. Not that I don't want to say the hunger's not there, but it's just a different perspective here. Where I'm like, I don't really have to come out.
You know what's tough though? For me, it's tough seeing. One of the reasons why I don't like to watch a lot of performers that I grew up watching perform now is because I feel like a lot of them are caught in this. I have to perform because I have to.
Like the boxer that's boxing like too many rounds.
Yeah.
Like you're like, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, I do.
Like
Yeah.
I honestly, I feel like this might be sacrilegious to say. I feel like when I see Rakim perform now, Rakim is most likely in a very good place right now. But there have been times over the last 5 years or so when I've seen him perform where I feel like he's only doing this because he has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is his plan A and his plan B.
Yeah.
For groups like De La Soul, whose pretty much entire catalogs have been held hostage and they can't monetize their catalogs, De La Soul has to hit the road every year or so in order to make ends meet.
Absolutely.
And and I never wanted to be personally. I never wanted to be in that position. So yeah, it's a good feeling to wake up and say, well, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
If I don't want to.
Now, rappers I know,
Yep.
you kept up with that.
Mhm.
And then tell us about Ill Mannered Media.
Okay. Ill Mannered Media was it started off as really my videography company. Back in I think 2010, when I got laid off from a job, I decided that I wanted to do video full time. And the reason I really wanted to get into video, honestly, was because as a musician coming up, we always wanted to do videos but could not afford them. We couldn't afford to have anyone shoot. And I always said that one day I would get the equipment necessary to where we didn't have to ask anyone to do it. So in 2010, I kind of got my shit together after I got laid off, and I said I'm going to form a company, start doing video.
Yeah.
The name Ill Mannered Media came up as a pure accident. At the time,
It had nothing to do with Nas Illmatic. Nothing.
nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. That's another story.
We here for him.
Yeah, I was messing around online one day, and there was an anagram program or whatever, where if you type in a word or a series of words, it'll tell you what other words could be made out of it. So I typed in my first, middle, and last name, and out of that came Ill Mannered Media.
Really?
Oh. You got a Childish
that's
Gambino
dope.
story.
Yeah,
No, that's
up.
dope. No, that's better than a child.
That is
Childish
better.
Gambino was a Wu-Tang name generator. That's why
That just came out of nowhere.
I had
but that-
that's why I had Osiris 1980 at Yahoo for a long time.
Yeah, really?
But yeah, no, this is Ill Mannered Media. That's a much better story.
Anagram? Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's an anagram for my full name. And that the very next day, I went and registered that name. I was like, this is fate.
It's a sign from God.
Yeah, and I went and registered it, and I was like, yeah, that means I need to do it. And it started off as video, and over the years, it has been a house for whatever I do creatively, whether it's production, which I've done a little bit of, not as much lately, also for podcasting as well.
Because we saw you in the Houston Press article
Yeah.
feature you pretty heavily.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Houston Chronicle article.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Press because,
Yeah.
my bad. But Houston Chronicle, I mean, they
Shameless
feature you
plug.
pretty heavily. Shameless. Shameless plug because I write for
Because the nigga right for
But
this. Yeah.
no, the Houston Chronicle article feature you heavily because you're involved in a number of podcasts
Yeah.
and in that arena, especially when we're considering Houston, you're at the forefront of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll take that. The thing about podcasting that I love is that I feel like it's an extension of what I learned in rap. In my goals with rap, most of the time, were to deliver a message to people. That message might just be, I'm the best rapper alive, or that message might be something that's more socio-political in nature. Podcasting, what I love about it is it's a very conversational platform that allows you to convey your ideas. So I thought that podcasting was just a natural progression from what I do with rap. And it really started off with me and a buddy of mine named Remix. We were at his studio one day and we were just bored. And we were like, let's just record ourselves talking about whatever it is that we talk about. Mm-hmm. It got kind of weird sometimes. But then from that, I said, let's see what else can be made out of it. And I got approached by Cashmere Dawn to do, before that, my homegirl Jessica O'Brien to do the Curly Nerd podcast. For a couple of years, we did that podcast where we talked about my first love, comic books, movies, geek culture, things like that. And then we did From Houston with Love with Cashmere Dawn and D-Ray, where we talked about, our goal was to talk about things that were happening in Houston, but it really just evolved a lot into us being drunk and talking shit, which was a lot more fun.
Always is.
To working with the fellows on the Virtual Reality Caravan podcast.
Which is just on a minor hiatus.
Minor hiatus.
Mine.
The most occasional podcast.
Next episode coming soon.
But I've been involved in about 5 or 6 different podcasts, and I enjoy them all. They're all fun. Oh, and right now, really working with Opinions While Black, featuring Oz Longworth. Not to be confused with In My Humble Opinion. That podcast,
opinions, though. We like it. In my humble opinion, Opinions While Black. Yeah. We like it.
Yeah, that podcast is a lot drunker than this one, and a lot. I'm not gonna say a lot more opinionated, but it's a lot drunker.
When you're drunker, I'm not gonna say you're more opinionated, but you are more. Let's just say firm on your opinions. You want to make sure people know your opinions when you're drunk. You're like, oh yeah, okay,
yeah, definitely, and that's kind of where we are today. I'm scaling back on the podcast now because coming in 2020 have more film work that needs to be done, and that's where most of my focus will be for 2020. And until then,
any more Radio Galaxy videos coming out or anything like that?
I mean, they're almost done with the project, and we're supposed to be
okay. So we heard that Radio Galaxy's almost done with a project.
This is just a shameless ad. In my humble opinion, loves Radio Galaxy.
We kind of do.
And we want them on to have them come on.
Really want them on.
Hey, he didn't even plan this too. I just fronted them right now. I was like, let me get them on.
I'll wear a luchador mask. I really want them on.
I'll drag them out here, man. I actually, once the album is done, I will drag them out here to get them on here.
You heard it first. It's recorded. Yes.
Not only that. I promise, because it's a number of them. We'll put y'all in the big studio.
Yeah.
There's a bigger studio, got a couch,
that's a whole different gimmick for you guys.
Oh yeah.
Change it up.
Yeah. Come on down, Radio
Galaxy. We want
Galaxy.
you to come.
But yes.
I'll get
Pause.
it. Yeah, their album, I mean it's almost done. I actually met with them a couple weeks ago. We went through most of what they have done now. And yes, we did go over video ideas. So we should start shooting videos probably in January.
Okay.
The project.
Okay. It's right around the corner.
It's very nice.
Oh, that's excellent.
It's very nice.
When somebody whispers something, that's when it's serious. It's
secret.
Very nice.
And so
like,
what
that's
more,
real.
Beyond that, what more can we expect from Damien Randle? Besides catching up on Disney Plus and the Mandalorian.
Look, man.
$90. If somebody spends $90, I'm like, D-Rand, damn. Like, I feel you.
Disney already got my money.
Disney got my money immediately.
Yeah, they
that
got
was
it.
It was an automatic.
Yeah, I can understand.
I was like, if y'all want to do payroll deduction, y'all can have that too.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Just watch an episode of Gargoyles. Yes.
Yeah.
Gargoyles is the show.
But Disney has too much stuff.
No such thing.
It does. Look,
But you're familiar with it,
tell you
unlike
right
Netflix.
now, when my
Netflix pops
grandkids-
up and you're like,
when
I don't
my
know what this is.
grandkids come up to me, like, they're like, yo, Disney blocked that legislation for that one senator because of they bank. And I'm like, yo, I had the opportunity to stop them. I did. But they had the whole series of Gargoyles streaming. Like,
Hey.
I had to come out with the money. Like, first they said $6.99. It was a no-brainer. 10 million of us subscribe.
And we've only talked about Disney.
Yeah.
There's Fox.
Yeah.
I can watch all of The Simpsons.
So-
I can watch the 6 good seasons
They
of
got.
The Simpsons. Let's be honest.
I think you can watch the other 36, and then your grandkids can be like Simpsons. They on season 104.
Yeah, because
they
it's not going to
stopping.
end.
They not.
I'm like, when
stopping.
Conan O'Brien was writing, it was good.
Yeah.
Then he left. It was not good.
But yes, what more? Because I cut you off on we
Nah,
were going
all
on Disney
good.
Plus tangent.
What
All
more
good.
can you say?
You'll see a lot more on the filmography front. Working on a comedy series, which will be in sitcom format, and 2 features so far for next year. And
Comedy series.
a comedy sitcom.
Oh,
Sitcom.
That's
okay.
it's almost a redundant statement. A comedy situation comedy.
comedy
A
situation comedy.
What's this about?
Comedy.
I'm not going to say what it's about just yet because there's a twist to it and I still don't know how to describe it without including the twist to it.
Okay.
But it's something that we've already started production on and it should be hitting your way. The other thing that I'm trying to develop, the first black martial arts film as well. That might take another year or so.
A serious one?
A serious one. I'm
ser-
not talking about Last Dragon.
Okay. Because I was like, the disrespect.
The Last Dragon.
No, I'm not talking about Last Dragon.
Okay.
Okay. I'm talking about like an actual.
And you
like-
want real actual martial arts, not
Yes.
like a Black Dynamite.
That's good, though.
Exactly.
Or,
'Cause
okay.
Exactly.
Houston's the place to find them.
Yeah.
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 Houston
Yeah.
is definitely the place.
Yeah. So that's a dream that I've had for a couple of years now. I'm like, man, I want like a cold ass, just a black martial arts film.
Have you met TBW Sir Spitter? He has a whole video. We
Yeah.
interviewed him a while ago, but he has a whole video, and he goes, "I filmed that in Houston, and it was all karate."
Yeah.
Like he's
Because
he's
serious. He's
a-
been doing it for
he's a
like
black
11,
belt.
12
Like
years.
he's been doing it for
Yeah.
a while.
Okay.
He was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Him
yeah,
and
we'll talk off camera.
Him
We'll get
and
that.
his crew.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm
there's like
telling
4 of
you,
them popped.
they-
Yeah, that's
and they rap.
kind of good.
Like,
Hope I didn't
saying.
disrespect him by saying what I said.
No. But yes, okay. So we know what's coming from you.
Yeah.
Anything you want to leave your fans with?
I have fans.
Prague and your Spotify account definitely says
show that.
you have fans.
And when you look at the comment section,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like, this is in French.
it's like, okay,
There's
The fans are
this
out
is
there.
a lot of comments too.
I do want to. You know what? That's the wildest part about it is. The wildest part about this whole experience is that the bulk of our fan base, if you want to call it that,
That's what it is.
is in Europe. And the most beautiful part about this experience is that to this day, there are people that I talk to almost on a daily basis from different countries across the world who originally I spoke to because of their love for the music that I helped create. But I have, for all intents and purposes, genuine friendships with.
That's good.
And I've been able to develop a more global perspective of things by talking to different people from different walks of life. So the only thing that I'll leave with everyone is the world that you live in, the city that you live in, the street, the block, the room that you live in is a very, very small place on earth. And realize that there are 7 billion other people out here, and most of them are just like you. And just keep that in mind when you go out and do the things that you do and make the decisions that you make. Most times we get it wrong. Most times we get it wrong, man. When we have ideas of what other people are like, at the end of the day, most of them are just like us.
That's true.
It's a hard concept to swallow, but it's once you get down to it, like that's really what it is.
That is true.
Well, that's a good note.
That's
to
a
leave
good
off
note
on.
to
Some
leave off
poignant
on.
Note.
It was pretty deep. I appreciate you
Deep as
coming
the Atlantic Ocean, kids.
There you go. Callback joke.
Yeah.
D Rand back with us. In my humble opinion, I've been one of your hosts, Carlton Banks. Avery like a very nice guy. I don't know who I am sometimes. I forget. Also, that we have Jess Devon. Thank you.
y'all have
sound effects,
some of the
man.
most unique, just like I don't give a fuck names ever. Like a very nice guy.
No, it's Avery, like a very nice guy. That's why.
See?
Yeah.
So that works.
Just like you. You know what I'm saying?
Devon is the one that's lazy.
I'm gonna tell you what Devon is, and I'm gonna say it one time, and then we'll leave.
Okay.
I went to Xavier University. This is at apparently the advent of the internet or the
Yeah.
advent of email when people didn't care, and they said, "Look, here's your email address. It's your first name, your first initial, your middle initial, and then your last name." They said yours is drdouglas@xula.edu. I said, "Where's the S?" They said it don't fit. I said, oh, "Okay." So what am I supposed to do with that? I made that my handle for everything. I was like, not because I thought it was cool, because I didn't want to forget.
Yeah.
So I made Dr. Douglas at Yahoo, Dr. Douglas everything, and that just carried along with it. But we're also at Xavier.
People
People
think
thought
you're
it
a
was Dr. Douglas. I was like, nah,
But
man.
the
It ain't
funny
got
thing
nothing to do
is,
with the doctor.
he went to law school, but he wanted to be a doctor. That's what he first went.
Oh,
So when
but I was
saw
at
that,
Xavier. It was.
I was
to be a
like,
doctor.
he's gonna be a
But
doctor.
it
And then
definitely wasn't. It wasn't
Then I
for
was like, oh, yeah.
the doctor thing. It's like, you know,
his name
you
is
gotta-
Devon Douglas. So I was like,
I
oh,
say,
snap.
I'm like, blame my mama for having the R in the middle
That's
name.
crazy.
So yeah, that's all that was.
That's what it is in my humble opinion podcast. We're going out on a high note. Good night, mwah, and goodbye, bang.
He don't know the bang, man. That was the last guy we told him.
I told him
You know
to do
what?
it this time,
Good
but it
night,
doesn't
y'all.
matter. Who
Good night,
cares?
y'all.
We're one and the same.
We have no idea what time it was because the clock stopped.
Damn, we went over.